All right, so let's talk about it. So Cameron recently kicked Adrien Broner off of his "It Is What It Is" podcast because Adrien Broner was making several advances towards his co-host, Stat Baby. And Stat Baby, I guess he could sense that there was some discomfort. She was uncomfortable. It was also mentioned that her boyfriend was, I guess, a part of the staff. So when Cameron saw that it got real uncomfortable, there was another woman in there. There was another woman as well, right? I forget what her name was, but she kind of disappeared or went off screen, and Cameron told him, "Look, you got to go." So because he saw that Stat Baby was uncomfortable or her boyfriend was uncomfortable, and he made a choice. He says, "Hey, you have to go. You violated." And it wasn't. He didn't care if he was a celebrity. He didn't let it slide for the sake of entertainment. He told him, "You got to go," and he walked him out. That's important because so often women are left to handle those type of situations on their own. So here's a deeper issue. Patriarchy. I know a lot of people don't like that word because it's thrown out there a lot. But patriarchy, it has trained men, especially men like Broner, who have wealth, who have celebrity status, that beauty is an invitation. It's an invitation. So usually the logic it goes like this: is if she's attractive, she wants attention. If she's in front of me, her presence is for me. If she resists, that means I just have to be more persistent to kind of get it. It doesn't matter if she's married or whatever. Eventually, I can win her over. So that's not really attraction. That's kind of entitlement. And it plays out every day, especially in worker customer relationships. So you look at restaurants. The obvious one is a place like Hooters that depends on the male gaze to kind of get service, right? They kind of depend on that to make their money, and industries like that kind of exploit that. But that's too obvious. That's kind of something else, right? Let's take a waitress for interest. Let's take a waitress. The waitress has to smile and she has to serve while dodging unwanted comments. Like, all at the same time, kind of being examined and kind of, they're made to feel like almost like an object or something, but she has to serve the customers and she has to dodge these unwanted comments or kind of smiling, whatever. The bartender, that's the person that's serving drinks. They get hit on all the time, especially while they pouring the drinks. It's like, hey, keep the money coming, keep the tips coming. I'm gonna keep pouring them, or whatever. But they got to deal with some of these sleazy type of guys that are trying to hit on them or trying to take them home. The bank teller. This is a professional person, right? And they kind of get treated as the customer's experience instead of an actual professional. So businesses like Hooters that I mentioned earlier, and some of the businesses that I'm going to get into later on in this video, they encourage this type of dynamic, especially when it comes to media and like sports entertainment, because they know that men will spend more money and tip bigger, especially in these like service restaurants, if they feel like beauty is part of the product. So let's move on to examples that you see in everyday life, in media. So the weather woman. The weather woman is hired because they typically look the part, right? When I say look the part, that means her appearance is kind of one of these features that is going to get the attention of men. It's going to it's going to get the male gaze. I'm not talking about the LGBTQ. I'm talking about GAZE. That's the stare, right? And they kind of depend on that to get the viewers to come watch the segment of the weather. And you can see it's large communities online where they just focus on weather women, right? So the appearance becomes part of the package, and it blurs the line between professionalism and entertainment. I mean, you even have some of these women who are on Instagram where you can see they have large followings because the men love watching them on television. They can be talking about the weather in Alaska. Even though you're in Los Angeles, what are you doing watching the weather in Alaska? Or what are you doing watching the weather in Texas if you're in New York, or vice versa? So that subtle framing, it kind of trains the audiences to see women's bodies or their presence as something that exists for consumption. And now we segue into sports media, where we saw at one point, if you're a little bit older like me, where you saw the whole Joe Namath incident, where he was on live television and he appeared to be intoxicated, and he was with a beautiful young lady named Suzy Kolber. Now, Suzy Kolber was doing her job as a sideline reporter when Namath, drunk on live TV, tried to kiss her. That wasn't just a cringe moment. It was that entitlement that I brought up earlier on display. He treated her visibility as availability. Then we have another example that happened, I believe, in 2014 with Cari Champion and Artie Lange. Cari Champion was a respected ESPN anchor. She became the target of a racist, hypersexual fantasy tweeted by Artie Lange. She wasn't in a room. She wasn't engaging with him. She was simply visible in the public eye. And still, she was reduced to an object for his entitlement. So those are two examples to show you how patriarchy, it collapses that blurred line between being a professional woman in media and being treated like a product. You even still see it today with some of the anchors on ESPN. I believe it was that WNBA, the beautiful chocolate sister. I can't pronounce her name. Beautiful, right? And they kind of use that as the product to get you to click on their videos. They use that as a way for you to engage, especially males. So we go back to the whole argument a year back, where so many men say, hey, why are so many women saying they would choose a bear over a man? If you were trapped somewhere, why would you choose a bear over a man? Obviously, a bear with all of that speed, all of that power and dominance could easily kill you. So why would you rather have a bear over a man? That just seems illogical. Any man is going to choose a man to be around their daughter over, say, a bear. But this is the key. A lot of women chose that answer because they know that a bear, if given enough distance, will probably leave you alone. But the way that patriarchy works, right? If you're a man possessed by patriarchy, you have that entitlement that we brought up earlier, right? And that entitlement doesn't respect distance. Distance is more of a challenge to a man, all right? So men are taught that distance doesn't matter. If she's visible, she's available. Go for it. The bear respects boundaries, but patriarchy doesn't. So that's why you had so many women that would say they would choose the bear over the man. So back to Cameron's, the whole point of this video. Cameron, what he did, it matters. I'm not saying that he's all of a sudden a feminist or he's some kind of activist for women. But what he did in that moment, it really mattered, because he kind of just told Broner, look, I know I paid you. You can get your money. You can get out of here. I know we're homies. We're cool and all. But you stepped over the line. You stepped over the boundaries that I created. And if you don't respect the boundaries that I told you that I had and that my coworkers have, then you have to leave. Right? It doesn't entitle you because you have money or you have fame or you have whatever. That doesn't you're not exempt from the boundaries. So that's respectable. At the end of the day, it's not really about Cameron being a hero. It's about showing what happens when men stop confusing visibility with availability, and finally start respecting women as people, not as products or objects. It's your boy Brian Discerning Thoughts. If you made it this far, type peace.